Title IX is a law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in schools. And it covers teachers, students, staff, visitors, anybody basically in a school that is federally funded.
It's been 50 years since Title IX protections were passed, and the world of sports and education has seen a whole lot of changes in the years since. Tonight, our Rachel Kraus shares the fight a Hoosier athlete took on years ago to offer more opportunities to kids across the country.
It's all about fairness, leveling the playing field.
Sports law and public policy professor Jayma Meyer has spent much of her life fighting for girls to be treated equally. In the classroom, she teaches her students about the impact of Title IX. As a girl, she lived it. In Valparaiso, she found success as a swimmer, setting state records. But at just 14 years old, she aged out of available swim programs.
There was no girls' team. So I asked, in fact, I begged the boys' swimming coach to let me practice with them. I didn't even think about competing with them. All I wanted to do was practice with them. And he said no, because I would humiliate the boys. I would be able to beat them. So I had to come up with another plan.
Training on her own, she convinced her local YMCA to let her and her mother in to train at 5:30 in the morning, pushing herself forward. She was ranked in the world for the butterfly, but fell just short of making the 1972 Olympic team.
And so instead of traveling to Munich, I came to Bloomington to Forest Storm and watched on TV, really all of the guys who I'd been at that point practicing with at the Olympics. And it was pretty demoralizing because the same thing happened to me at IU as in high school. There was no girls swim team. Again, they had the best boys team in the country, but absolutely nothing for women.
In 1972, Title IX had just passed, but Meyer says few opportunities for women in sports existed at that point, and many fought against it.
There were incredible attempts to try to prevent the Title IX, which applied to all activities and programs in education, but to prohibit it from applying to sports.
The NCAA in 1976 even filing a lawsuit challenging Title IX's legality. Maddie White, Deputy Director of Athletics at Indiana University, says creating teams and programs for women to match what the men had took years.
And when you think about those beginning budgets that had to be established and the resources needed, it took us 10 to 15 years to get our sports programs established.
It was tough, White says. Budgets for women's teams were meager compared to men's. Women at first wearing warm-ups instead of uniforms at games. But she says many women on campus were ready to jump in.
There were women who were participating and wanted to play and be a part of sports. They had these extramural opportunities, so there was interest.
In the decades since, White says IU has made significant strides to ensure men and women have access to the same opportunities, similar facilities, and comparable coaches and equipment. And while budgets are more closely aligned than they were in the 70s, there are still inequities.
The work is still being done to this day.
For Meyer, her own push for gender equity goes beyond the classes she teaches at IU and into her work, first as an antitrust lawyer and now focusing on gender equity and sports law, ensuring Title IX is being followed.
I'm really committed to making a difference in this area so that no girls or women suffer the inequities in sports that I did. There's still a lot to be done, and education is so important, because if you don't know about it, you're not going to try to do something differently, try to change it.
So it made a lot of progress, but 50 years later, a lot of legal advocates say there's still work to be done to protect Title IX in schools.
Yeah, and it faced a lot of legal hurdles in the 70s to include women in sports at all. And earlier this year, the Supreme Court ruled that under the Affordable Care Act, emotional distress damages cannot be awarded for discrimination. And that's expected to cut off money for people who win Title IX lawsuits that schools previously had to pay out. Law experts say that is concerning because victims might not come forward in the future if they don't have to have the money to pay for lawyers to bring a Title IX case forward.
It could be that there are really no money damages, which could mean that they've basically gutted Title IX in its 50th anniversary, because who's going to sue for nothing?
And then more recently, there's this issue, this question over trans athletes in sports, women's sports.
Yeah, and Title IX actually says that people are protected from discrimination based on their sex. But as states like Indiana pass laws effectively banning athletes from participating when they are trans, many legal advocates wonder if the Supreme Court will side with Title IX as written, as they previously did, or if they will make changes.
All right, I know you'll continue to follow it. Rachel, thank you.